Welcome. Today's talk is how to go from hopeless to hopeful and beyond. And as usual, I want to start with a couple of quotes. To love means loving the unlovable. To forgive means pardoning the unpardonable. Faith means believing the unbelievable. Hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless. Gilbert Chesterton. Wake up, your word is powerful. Ernest Holmes. Since you alone are responsible for your thoughts, only you can change them. Paramahansa Yogananda. So our talk today, hopeless to hopeful and beyond. 3 steps that I want to go through. One, the very first step is to awaken to the old story that's playing in your life where things, they seem to be hopeless. From there, hope is the next, that is the possibility, is hope, once we discover the story. Step 2, activate, create a new story, make a new choice. And step number 3, take action in the new story with a vision. 3 weeks ago, my dad had open heart surgery. And as my mother and I were sitting in the waiting room for 5 hours waiting for the doctor to come out, he finally came out. He was really frustrated. He was pissed. And I was like, whoa, this doesn't look good. And he said, I couldn't do the 3-way bypass. I had to do a 2-way. His veins were too small. And he was just so frustrated. You could just feel the energy off him. And then he just turned around and left. And we just the tears just flowed. But there was such a relief that the surgery was over and that he had made it through the surgery. So for the next day and a half, everything went, as far as recovery goes, really well. And then the unthinkable happened. My dad took an extreme turn for the worse. And the anesthetic that he was on, it was making him delirious. And he was actually getting really mean-tempered toward both of us. And we were kind of like, And then he started to hallucinate, thinking that they were poisoning him. And for me, his anger triggered all of my childhood memories when I can remember when he would get angry. And that it just started to well up inside of me, and I could just feel it. And all those memories that have been stored in my subconscious, they were right there. And as soon as it was triggered, all of a sudden, I was remembering being that little girl. And I started to just shut down. And I realized that I had to get out of the room. So I went out of the ICU, the intensive care unit, and I went out into the waiting area. And there they had this big family of 30 people had just pulled the life support on one of their loved ones. I was just my heart was so heavy. And I was wailing, I was crying, I was stuck in this childhood story. And I just felt this hopeless feeling. And so I telephoned somebody for support, and at this point, my default was just to rant and rave about the story that was going on. And fortunately, the person that I'd called for support, they stopped me in the middle of me going on about the story, and they said, Jayne, what are you doing? Get back in your power. You are powerful. You take that healing light of yours and just light yourself up, and then go back in and, light up your dad. You're powerful. You're just stuck in a story. And I said, could you say that over and over and over again, 10 times? So they did. They just said, you're powerful. You are the light. You're powerful. And it brought me out of this childhood story that I was stuck in, this hurt little girl and angry dad story. And because of what had happened to my dad, I was having this great opportunity to heal this childhood story. So when I finally snapped out of the story, when I heard this said back to me 10 times, I went back in that room, and it was like this, it was like this new part of me came alive, and I could just feel the light just welling up, like I had fueled myself up again. And I realized that I wasn't in control of my dad's life. It was his choice. I needed to just show up, to unconditionally love him, no matter what the outcome was, and no matter even if he was being mean. I had to just drop that story in me and surrender to the divine within me. And I chose to do that. Even if I say I had to, I chose, because within me I've chosen to let go of those stories that have been running me. So it was time to let go and let God. And the first step that I took was becoming aware that I had a story running. And then I knew that it was playing in my mind. And from there, then I could go to this place to have hope, the first possibility. I went back into that room and I blasted the whole room, and I was all lit up and filled up with this light, and I lit up my dad, and there was this great container of unconditional love, first for myself and then for my father, who was sitting there on the bed. And I saw that the highest and the best for myself and for him, regardless of how he was behaving, that this great container of unconditional love, that's what I was to show up with. Well, 10 minutes later, the neurologist showed up, and they were there to do some tests to see if there was a possible stroke and not from the anesthetic. And I witnessed a miracle. My dad's left arm that hadn't been moving for like 4 days, it was all swollen because that's where they had taken out the artery. He was able to move it when the doctor said to move it. And he came in and out of being lucid, and there was this feeling of, wow, there's hope. There was hope. My dad was choosing to awaken. And my gift in this experience, as I witnessed this, was that I got to heal my childhood story, and I got to change the story. Step number 1, awaken to the old story that's playing. And then I got to go from hopeless, what seemed hopeless, from there to hope, which is the first possibility. And number 2 was to activate, create a new story, make a new choice. And my dad was making a new choice to awaken from being delirious to lucid, and I was certainly awakening from this hurt childhood story that I'd had. You know, we have these times in our life where we just feel that things are totally hopeless in our life. And how do you respond? You know, I know how I responded. It wasn't, you know, my first reaction certainly was that I started to rant, get stuck in the story. But my second one was that I did call for support. And often we try to manipulate, we try to control, or worse, micromanage. And when I got back from Canada, and my teenage daughter and I got to experience one around micromanaging and feeling hopeless. And we were out shopping, and she had a total meltdown in the store. She's 17 years old. And I witnessed it. I was trying to micromanage what type of dress I thought would suit her body style for her. And she blew up saying that I was bullying her into something that wasn't her style. And when we got home, she stalked into the house, slammed the door. Boy, was she ever an angry teenager. I called her a witchosaurus. Fortunately, I didn't say it to her face. That to me is, it's a technical term for an angry female teenager, a witchosaurus. And it seemed hopeless. It really did. She was like, you could feel her mood, this anger, as it was coming through the walls. The whole house was permeated with this feeling of anger. It was like a cloud. And as soon as she went right upstairs to her room, and she promptly passed out and fell asleep. And I went down and I called a friend of mine for support and my prayer partner. And as she was talking to me on the phone, I could see that, again, I was stuck in my story about my daughter because it had seemed so hopeless. And I knew that this too shall pass, as she would say. And I was really grateful for that phone call that I'd made, because this is a woman who had had 6 children. She certainly knew how to help me get through it. And I opened to this new possibility. I had hoped that this too shall pass. And I realized that I had been in fix-it mode, so of course I had triggered my daughter. And I realized that I was trying to fix and basically micromanage, and in that moment I knew I needed to surrender and let go. And from this place, I was able to trust that it would work itself out. And I really got to digest that quote that I'd said from Chesterton at the beginning. To love means loving the unlovable. To forgive means pardoning the unpardonable. Faith means believing the unbelievable. And hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless. So in less than 2 weeks, I had 2 stories where I'd gone from totally hopeless to hopeful, a new possibility, and then to a new story, which was step 1 into awakening to the story and then activating a new story. And this made me even more aware of how important it is to have a vision to keep my mind on track, especially when things seem hopeless. So step number 3 is creating a vision to go with the new story. It might be as simple as saying to yourself every morning, I'm choosing to have hope, to open to possibilities, or I'm choosing to love myself unconditionally. I'm choosing to love others unconditionally. Since you alone are responsible for your thoughts, only you can change them, as Paramahansa Yogananda says. We can choose to make conscious choices by creating new thoughts that create a new story in alignment with our vision. So number one was to awaken to the story playing in your mind, in your life. And then from there, once you awaken, hope is the first possibility. Number two is to awaken, or number one, awaken. Number two is to activate by making a new choice, thereby creating a new story. And number three, action. Take action by creating a vision to go with the new story. And what brings hope? A vision brings hope. My dad had a vision to get through the surgery, to keep working, to being healthy again. Now, three weeks later, he's creating a new story where he can walk unassisted and his healing is happening quickly. I aligned with my vision and I was able to heal from my childhood stories. What is your vision? Take action by stating your vision statement every morning. Get up and go share what you've come here to do on the planet. There's no sense holding back. This isn't a dress rehearsal. That's what I tell myself. I'm like, this is the main performance. Get up and get going. So I invite you to awaken, to activate, and to take action on creating a new story with a vision. So I wanted to end this talk where let's close with 3 vision statements and say them together. I am powerful and purposeful. I am powerful and purposeful. I awaken, activate, and take action. I awaken, activate, and take action. I align with my vision. I align with my vision. Thank you. I love you.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.